What's going on, team? Proof here, and welcome to the first deck showcase for set 2. And the deck I'm showing today is Water Nature Astral, and it's one of the decks that I've been having a lot of success with on the ladder at the moment. It's also one of the strongest decks out there right now because it takes advantage of one of the new water cards, Astral, which I'll get to in a little bit. But the general idea behind the deck is just to be quick and aggressive while building up our mana relatively quickly compared to what our opponent can deal with. Draw a lot of cards and then beat them over the head with a lot of power. So let's go and hop into it, then we get into a few games. First card we have here is Steam Star, which is a card that I've talked about in conjunction with Astral. Just a 2 mana, 1000 power cyber virus, just to be used as evolution bait for Astral. Next up we have 3 Kelp Candle, which is another cyber virus. It's a blocker, and then when it blocks, it draws you a card. It's also be used with Astral as well. We use 3 just because it's the least powerful of the cyber viruses in terms of what we're trying to achieve with the deck here. So you cut out 1 to make space for something that can promote a more aggressive game plan. And having 7 baits with 4 Astral, which I'm about to show you guys, is still pretty good. And next up we have the key card of the deck, which is Astral, and it evolves on top of cyber viruses. And then when it comes into play, you draw 3 cards. So you're able to play this on turn 3 by having a cyber virus on the board, and then you can just draw 3 cards and recoup your advantages and then be able to start attacking from there. And then it also helps you fuel your future plays. And then we have 4 Spiral Slider, which is a shield trigger, and then I'll return one of your opponent's creatures that cost 6 or less back to their hand. Really good for tempo, really good for just being a shield trigger and stopping your opponent's attack. It's also good for temporary blocker removal to help us get through one of our opponents having a blocker on the board. Then we have a new card of the set. We have 4 Quixotic Hero Swine Snout, which is one of my favorite cards for nature coming out of the set. The way it works is when another creature comes into play, he gets plus 3000 power to the end of turn. So it stacks on itself. So if you play multiple creatures or your opponent plays multiple creatures, he keeps getting increments of 3000 power. So eventually he can trade into something that's bigger, or he can outpace one of your opponent's blockers and just be able to blast through one of their shields. He is vulnerable to removal, especially power-based removal from fire, but you still generally okay with that. Next up we have 4 Poisonous Mushrooms. When you play it, you can put a card from your hand into the mana zone. So the idea behind it is that you're going to draw a lot of cards with Astral anyway, so you can accelerate your mana base and go right into playing a turn 3 Flash Reef and be able to draw 3 cards soon thereafter and have 2 creatures on the board that can attack. Next up we have 2 Fairy Life, which puts the top card of our deck into the mana zone for 2 mana, and it's a spell instead of or it pulls from the top of your deck instead of pulling from your hand. And it just gives us 6 ways to accelerate on turn 2 to go right into turn 3 Flash Reef or into turn 3 playing one of our 4 drops. Then we have 4 Aqua Hocus. Aqua Hocus is a card that I've talked about a lot in that it just, when it comes into play, draw a card. And what I like to advise people when they're playing decks with Astral is to have another way to draw cards in case you don't get Astral on time. So it's easy to fit in Aqua Hocus here because, as you're going to see with the next card, we can go right into playing Crystal Paladin, which we have here, which evolves on top of Liquid People, and then it returns all blockers back to their owner's hands. This is another reason that Kelp Candle isn't as good as Steam Star, but it also just helps us get past blocker walls, and we have a bunch of small creatures, and so we want to facilitate them getting through. And then we have 4 Pincer Scarab. He gets plus 2000 power for every card in your opponent's hand. So if your opponent has 3 cards in their hand, he becomes a 9000 or 7000 power creature, and it makes him very hard to remove for power-based removal. So it puts a lot of pressure on our opponents playing control decks. And then as long as he has 6000 power or more, he becomes a double breaker. So incredibly powerful card, especially if you get to him early, and then it just starts to steamroll on himself. And then we have Mado Scrum, which is kind of a placeholder card at the moment, but it's a shield trigger, and choose one of your opponent's creatures with 5000 power or less and put it into the mana zone. So the reason it's a placeholder is because we're not sure what the last spot to be fully at the moment, but it's still a pretty good card for temporary removal or just getting the threat out, or not temporary, well, it could be temporary if they're playing Titan Giant, but it's a nice piece of removal here that we can use to get rid of blockers or little smaller threats as well. And then last but not least, tried and true Aqua Surfer, which we've talked about a lot. Shield trigger creature, return one of your opponent's creatures back to their hand when it comes into play. So that's the deck. We're going to get 3 games like we always do, and hopefully we win more than we lose. So let's go and hop into those. At some point, I promise to bring a non-water deck to showcase, or a deck that doesn't contain water, but water got a lot of new tools, and Astral is one of my favorite cards going right now, so I figured I'd go ahead and showcase it first. Okay, so we got a pretty decent hand starting off. We'll put this into mana. The idea being to play this, hopefully by then, or if we draw Astral Reef, we'll play this on turn 2. But we're going to field this turn 2 if we don't get Astral Reef to play that. What's going to mana is most likely going to be a Pincer Scarab, because my opponent's playing dragons. Snip plays, Quicks plays really good into Snip here, because if I play another creature, which isn't relatively difficult, he outpowers Snip. I wonder if they're playing more than just, I wonder if they're playing a Dragonoid dragon deck. Like there's some cards that I've talked about that get advantages from playing both dragons and Dragonoids. Attacking with both. I'll use that. That's good. I did want to draw that. Return that. Because Pyro returns back to hand anyway. And then we want to get the Pincer on the board because it's going to be hard to deal with for our opponent. As you can see, he's 9,000 power, and he has potential to keep getting bigger because I'm going to start breaking some shields. And our boy Swine Snot here is immune to Pyro Fighter too, because they have to play Pyro Fighter to be able to attack into something. At which point, Quixotic here gets bigger, so they can't trade into it because Pyro tops out at 3,000 power. Ooh, excuse me. So we have drawn the Reefy one. So we know that he plays Boltail here, which is a shield trigger dragon, but currently we're not in danger of an evolution dragon because they started off at 6 mana. I do want to hold on to Scrum, just in case. So I'm going to put that into mana. Play the Steam Star. Sorry if I sound tired. I'm legit just waking up not too long ago. Not the greatest draw. Ooh. Now we are in danger of a dragon evolution. They can go straight into Bajula. I was gonna stop attacking until I hit double fairy life. So scratch that whole plan. But this is a nice solid board here. Because he has to play something to get rid of this, or he can play something to get rid of this, but then both of these two stick around. It's hard for him to remove all three of these at the same time. Zoville here is incredibly good, as long as you can start, if you can establish your graveyard quickly. Got that one. I was afraid that if I stopped attacking, he would have gone into my Duel like I talked about. Would have been able to kill off my Pincer Scarab, and then I would have been, he would have had 2 shields left, and I would have been down 2 mana, so then it would have been harder to come back from there. So that's why I kept moving forward. Alright, we're going first. Let's see if we can get a turn 3 Reef action going. Because a lot of decks haven't yet started teching for the cyber viruses. Like there's Crimson Hammer, which is obviously really good. But not all the decks have been started to incorporate it just yet. So if I get ooh, okay. That's the worst draw. Darn. Okay. So we're looking at a turn 4 Reef potentially. Because it's gonna be turn 3. As long as it doesn't get discarded. One turn late Chief. But it does make a better turn 4 play than a full Reef. Like a lot of people go so gung-ho on Reef that they overlook other things, that you want to set it up as well. You want to be in a nice position to Reef that just cripples your opponent. Yeah, I don't need that. So let's see if our opponent has an answer for it. Okay. Get that one. Good job. No cyber viruses just yet. Let's try to, hopefully we dodge a Terror Pit for this attack. Oh snap. Get that. Good job. Okay. Well, at least those are out the way for now. Got the Steam Star. I'm actually gonna hold here because my opponent could have another Lancer. They could have Petrova to buff up one of their creature races. I don't want to lose what I have at the moment. We'll see about moving next turn once my board's a little more established. That double shield trigger was painful. There's the Lancer. What's in his hand from the... Oh, I thought so. That's largely okay. One, two, three, four, five. I really don't want to play the Kelp in case he has another form of discard lingering. I'd rather give them the 50-50 to hit my Crystal Paladin. Yeah, we'll go with that. They have seen a lot of discard in the top half of their deck though. Hit that one. Opponent's seen, yeah, it's seen a lot of discard. They've seen what, 5 forms of it? I'm probably gonna bounce that. Go ahead and play it again. Kind of in a holding pattern. Now that since they pinched my Crystal Paladin, excuse me, kind of in a wait and see holding pattern. They're trying to load up to beat me in one turn. I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my removal, 5 of my 9 removal triggers. So we have to win before long. We haven't seen any terror pits though. I'm playing the kelp now. This can attack. If they take it, then this becoming a double breaker. That's unfortunate. Well, they can't play any more shield trigger creatures. There's a terror pit, probably for that. Yep. I'll take that. I can draw a card. He did the trade to clear up some board space. Don't need that. Wonder what they're waiting for. Cause they gave up a Crystal Lancer just to discard me some more. Return that duder. And that's why we play the 4 Spiral Slider for cheap costs and things like that. Not bad, got there. So we overcame going 3 for 3 on trigger hits on our opponent's first 3 shields, into them getting our hand down by having 5 or 6 pretty much consecutive turns of discard, and then we're still able to get there and win. So trying to show the deck's resiliency, because that's why I like this version over the version with fire, because there is a fire water reef deck, but that deck falls harder to shield triggers than this one does, because it has more power to keep going over our opponent building a blocker wall, thanks to Swine Snout and Pincer Scarab. And I feel like the fire version would have had a tougher time with our opponent going consecutive discard into shield triggers that bounce and discard and things like that. It may have been able to make it just because Astral is really powerful, but I feel like it would have had a harder time, because there would have been instances where it would not have been able to attack because my opponent would have had blockers on the board, and they may not have drawn their blocker removal. And they discarded my Crystal Paladin too. Now I'm just yammering. Alright, so we're going second. Okay. So we have turn 3 Reef enabled. Now we just need to see if it's feasible for us to go for it. Usually turn 3 going second means our opponent can have an answer in Phantom Bite, like you saw in the last game that removed my Aqua Hocus. So sometimes it might be better to hold on to it and play it on turn 4. I'll play it, and then we'll see if it's the right play. I suspect it's going to get hit with the Phantom Bite. Go right in the Horde Worm. Now, are we afraid of Shadow Moon? Kinda, yeah. Okay. Go Reef into Reef. Though, it says I am afraid of Shadow Moon, which is a 4-mana card that buffs up darkness creatures. I'm gonna hold for a turn and see what our opponent does. Another Horde Worm. Aqua Surfer, please. So it could be charging up for Chaos Worm. We'll see. We're gonna play it slow here. Ah, I see. Petrova Worms. Now, are you going to attack though? Because if you do, you're gonna lose the worm. I'm gonna put that into mana and wait for the next one to show up. I'm gonna hold on to both of the spirals. It's my way in to breaking some shields. A little too late there, Scrum. You don't want to attack with the quicks here, because then it wouldn't have been a bad thing. Probably double worm here. Yeah, I should have attacked with the quicks last turn. Bounce that back again. May have lost this one. I think not breaking that shield last turn with quicks might be the changing factor. It's my first time running into Petrova with worms. So I suspect them to evolve this into Chaos Worm. Yep. Cause then, if assuming this wasn't a shield trigger removal, of course it is. Well, we have one hope in that we can have our last Aqua Surfer in our shields. Or we just field something that they can't remove and then win from there. That's why I cut back on the evolution creatures. A lot of the light water darkness decks have started to incorporate that. Another Chaos Worm and a Terror Pit. We'll see it out. You never know. Play the pig. Yeah, I think I was a bit too passive there. Because then it would have been down to 0 shields faster, so they may not have been able to do that Sundrop armor play with the Aquan to refuel, or they may not have had the target necessary. So that was just my bad. That was an airplane on my part. They probably put a Holy Eye or another Terror Pit into their shields. Then they top deck the Surfer. Not the trigger we wanted, but the trigger we got. Should go with this one because I can't target Petrova, so I need a trigger on one of those first 3. Good order there. Unfortunate. So we lost this one, but that's okay. I see ways where I could have played it better. Like my opponent not showing light or water mana made me think that they might have been playing mono darkness or something that's more heavy lean into darkness, to where they had Shadow Moon, which stopped me from attacking for a couple turns early on with my Astral Reef, which in theory probably would have just been better just to, it may not have been, just because if they did play the Shadow Moon, then they could have played it, attacked into my tap down one, and then removed something. And then even if I did go flash Astral Reef the next turn, they would have been at 5 mana to go right into Chaos Worm and keep that going. So I think waiting was smart. It's just that my opponent played it smart by not revealing that they had other civilizations in their deck, which would have made me play differently. So all in all, I'm not too hard. Not too beaten down by the loss. And I think it was overall, all in all, it was a good showcase of what the deck is trying to achieve with the pieces. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. And I do promise to not show, or I promise to have something that's not water based in the next video. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Be easy.